What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a fresh episode of the 101 series presented by Fandoms Anonymous. It's been a minute since we've been with you guys doing the 101 series, but it's time to get back in gear. I hope all of you are out there being safe and all that good stuff from quarantine and lockdown. And make sure you just follow all the social distancing rules so that we can get back to some type of normalcy somewhere in the near future. I have an amazing guest with us today. A lot of you people might know him. A lot of you people might not know him, but today you will get to know who he is, what he's about. I got Mr. Duncan Kirkwood on the line. What's going on, Duncan?
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here.
Most definitely, man. I'm going to give y'all my background on Duncan Kirkwood, and it's kind of small, but it is significant. I came to Alabama State University in 2009, and you know, whenever you come to a new school, whether you come in fresh into a high school, fresh into college, or any type of organization, there's always going to be some person's name you're going to hear all the time. When I got to Alabama State, all I heard was Duncan Kirkwood. It was on signs. It was on SGA posters. It was in meetings. It was on the loud screen. He was participating in just about anything at Alabama State that you saw Duncan Kirkwood. You know who he was. You know who his name was, and you saw his face. And so that's my memory of Duncan Kirkwood. So when he reached out to me, I was like, bro, I know you, but I don't know you. So, man, first I want to give you the opportunity. Well, first I'm going to tell the people what the 101 series is for those who don't know. The 101 series is something I created on the Fandoms Anonymous YouTube channel because I wanted to do something other than always talking about comic books and movies and TV shows and sci-fi, all that good stuff, because I dabbled in a lot of different things. So I've created this segment to highlight people for them to be able to plug who they are and express what they do with the masses. It's a period where I do less talking and I let them do the walking and the talking and letting people know what they do, because you never know what somebody does might be something that you need, might be the person you can connect with, and so on and so forth. So, Duncan, I want you to introduce yourself and tell the people about what you do.
Okay, well, great. Like you said, my name's Duncan Kirkwood. I grew up and born and raised in Buffalo, New York. Came down to college in Montgomery, Alabama State University. Got pretty involved on campus. Graduated from there. Joined the military. Served 8 years in the Alabama Army National Guard. Then after that, I did some education policy work. Led the statewide effort to pass the Alabama School Choice and Opportunities Act, which allows for Alabama to become the 43rd state to allow for public charter schools. Then I got engaged and moved back home to Buffalo after about being away for about 12 or 13 years. So I got married. And, since that time, I ran the local Black Lives Matter chapter. Then I did some more educational policy work. And most recently, I've been doing consulting around community engagement and training around resilience. Recently released a book on resilience called Rerouting, Resilience Tools and Tactics, where I've taken kind of military principles on resilience, because that was one of my jobs, was to help soldiers become more mentally tough to combat veteran suicide and depression. And so I took that and I blended it with some P.D. Ouspensky and Eckhart Tolle and James Redfield, and really put together, took the deep philosophical, esoteric concepts and military, rigid thinking patterns and put them into something the average person could use to become more resilient, mentally tough, mentally agile. And that was the genesis of me writing the book. And so I've been doing a lot of speaking and training around resilience. And yeah, that's what brought me here today.
So my question, and this is a question that I have for my own self and of course everybody out there who's listening. What is educational policy?
So education policy, one thing I learned was that, how they always say the school system is broken. They say, classrooms are overcrowded, or the teachers don't care, or, we always kind of hear these kind of things about school systems and education systems, right? Well, the education systems are usually broken, but they're broken on purpose. And so the purpose is because a lot of adults view the education system as like a cash cow for the teachers union. The teachers union, they give money and they lobby elected officials to pass laws and policies that benefit teachers and educators, not the students. So a lot of the policies actually benefit the educators, but they don't benefit the students. I have been doing work around fixing those laws and creating new policies in a few different states so that the laws would start to slant towards benefiting the children. And I'll give you an example of that. Here in Buffalo, we got one of our education policies is that teachers who coach teams, they coach, football, basketball, track, whatever, they get a stipend. And that's pretty standard, in most education systems, right? Coach gets a stipend. But how those coaches are selected is based on seniority. So what that means is if Bill Belichick said, you know what, I'm going to come to Buffalo and I'm going to coach the football team at a local high school because I just want to volunteer my time for the next year, right? And Bill Belichick says, I'm coming to Buffalo, I'm going to do it for like free or $500 or some tiny stipend, right? Not even a normal stipend. And the art teacher who says, I've never played football, I don't know anything about the sport, but I'm a certified teacher and I've got seniority, that art teacher gets to be the coach, not Bill Belichick. And not the young new math teacher who actually played D1 football. Nope. The oldest teacher with the most seniority gets first priority to be the coach. So now we got a bunch of folks who want to get paid extra money, that $8,000 stipend, right, to coach the kids or whatever. Now they're getting that extra stipend at the end of their career, so it helps with their pension. But the kids are getting crappy coaches. So they're not being prepared to go to college and D1 and D2 and get full scholarships because the coaches don't know anything about how to do that. So that's like this is one example of a policy that does not benefit children, but it benefits adults.
So let me ask that question real quick. Is that why when I got to high school, because I never understood it, is that why when I got to high school, the tennis coach was teaching a social studies class? The track coach was teaching a math class. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, it's yes. Okay. Because, of course, I went to high school. I went to Murphy High School in Mobile, Alabama. And that was something I had never seen before. And those would be the classes where you could walk by there any given day, and you saw no work was being done in those classes. And people, the oldest kids will tell you, you want to get coached with such and such class. His math class easy. I know, because y'all ain't doing nothing. That's why. Yeah. I know it's easy. It's gotta be.
And it sounds like that might not be the most serious of policies, but there are like a lot of other policies that, in the same vein, flagrantly have a benefit. They just have this clear benefit for adults at the expense of the children. And so I've just worked, really like the last 7 or 8 years and changing laws and policies to try to stop that and try to, make the policies where we put kids first.
There's some type of lack or need that you didn't get when you were coming up in your educational career that fueled what you're doing now?
No, not at all. Actually, quite the contrary. My mother was very involved, and she got me into a magnet school. A magnet school is a school where you test into. It's like the highest performing schools. It's really a result of forced integration. Another story for another day. But I was in a really high performing arts magnet school. Then I went to another magnet school for arts. I played the piano in high school. So I went through from 3rd through 12th grade, really high quality schools. It wasn't until, I came home from college, from Alabama State. When you go to college, the first summer, you always come home to tell all your friends and see what they did in college. And you know what I mean? This is like this reconciliation of your old friendships and stuff. And I realized a lot of them hadn't gone to college, and they were still living in the same inner cities and doing the same stuff and getting into trouble. Some of them were in jail. That I realized that our lives were on different paths. And the only real difference was that I went to high performing magnet schools and they went to the school that they were zoned for based on their zip code, based on our zip code. And so because of that, they didn't get the push that I got. And then that was the first kind of, something's up. But I was a freshman in college, so I didn't know nothing about education policy. But then when I had my first job in education policy, it was with Students First. And I learned, I was an organizer, and that's when I learned, this system is broken on purpose. Like that, and then once you learn that, it's just, you can't unlearn that. You know what I'm saying? So it was for me, they explained to me this law, and it's a law in Alabama. It's still a law in Alabama. It's called last in, first out. So essentially, just say there's a budget shortage and they've got to fire 10 teachers, right? They're going to fire the last 10 teachers hired, even if they're the greatest teachers that have ever taught in the history of education. They're going to fire just arbitrarily. The last 10 hired are the first 10 fired when there's a budget shortage. And so you could have a teacher who's been teaching 50 years, don't know technology for real, doesn't connect with the kids, really, whatever. And that teacher is going to stay until they want to retire, versus a teacher who might be like super excited about education, all these new ideas. Their classroom is the highest performer. They might be the Alabama Teacher of the Year. Guess what? If they're one of the last ones hired, they're the first ones fired. And then once I learned that, I'm like, oh, that's bull. You know what I mean? Like, that's just wrong for so many reasons. And then I started learning more and more. And then it's like, once you know something is wrong and you know that you have the ability to make change, you can't go back to just acting like it's normal and just being a passive person watching life happen and watching these injustices happen to children. Because really, and I mean, I'm getting way off topic here, but access to education is really like the new freedom movement, because slavery never ended. Right? In 1865, they just changed it to be where you couldn't enslave someone unless they were duly convicted of a crime. So then they just started convicting black people of crimes left and right. Right? And even to today, black people are over-policed, given harsher sentences for the same crimes, et cetera, et cetera. So education is the only way to really liberate people, to keep them out of that criminal justice system. And so when you have laws that are detrimental to children, like, that means you're essentially trying to feed them into that criminal justice system, which is the modern day slavery.
I guess my next question would be, seeing all that you have seen and doing all that you have done with the educational policy, with the many organizations and things that you've helped, put together and facilitate and be a part of, what would you say is one of your biggest success stories that you've seen?
In Alabama, that's a really good question. In Alabama, we did two things. There was a law that was passed right before I started working in this one statewide movement in Alabama around education, called the Alabama, I don't even know what it's called now, Alabama Opportunity Fund. It was basically like they have a tax credit scholarship where if you're a low-income family, you can get state money to pay for private school tuition.
Yes, I can.
Right.
I can speak to that. I can speak to that real quick before you go forward.
Okay.
My ex-wife, her niece lived with us. She moved in with us. She went to Bellingrass Middle School. Now you know how hard Bellingrass is. And she was not that type of child. She was the quiet, soft-spoken child. And we were looking at it from a perspective of, we got to get her out of that school. And I looked at my own self. I looked at her the same way I looked at me. I went to Palmer Pillins Middle School in Mobile, Alabama. Rough, just as rough as Bellingrass was. That wasn't my persona. So my 7th grade year, I went to Dunbar Magnet. So I was in performing arts school, picked up playing the tuba, and took that all the way through high school on into college. That 7th grade, right at the end of that 7th grade year, that's when the Alabama Opportunity Scholarship Fund came out, and I jumped on it immediately. And she was able to go, and from the rest of the time that she was with us, all the way up into 9th or 10th grade, she was able to go to Success Unlimited, and that was the best thing that could have ever happened for her, getting her out of that situation, because what we didn't want was for the environment that she was in to permeate into her and change her as a person. Because she would come home crying, she would come home upset, and then she would start acting out, and it's because she was being permeated. Some stuff she did, and we got on her for that. But we knew a lot of a good amount of that stuff was from the environment that you're in. If you're in a hostile environment and kids are fighting and kids are cussing and kids are not doing their work, you're going to pick some of that up, But of course, we always taught her about choices. What are you going to do when you go to school? Are you going to go to school and do your work and worry about yourself and come home every day? So we had to teach her that through that adversity. I would even go to the school they even have some days where they say, we're doing a presentation, we're going to bring all the kids in the cafeteria. If your parent comes, you're going to get an extra 10 points, 10%, whatever extra on your grade. I would go sometimes, Duncan. I would be the only person there, and that's not even my biological child. You know, so it's a big difference. But that Alabama Opportunity Scholarship Fund, I know saved a lot of children's lives and getting them out of certain situations and certain zones. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that story is beautiful. So just so you know, later I'd love to circle back to get that story to someone, to some folks who really could need to hear those testimonies. Because when the law first got passed, first of all, it was passed in like March, April-ish, right? Early spring. And so when it passed, they didn't think that a lot of families would take advantage of it the first year, because, you know, you got to register for school and stuff and everything for August. So there really wasn't a lot of time for families to take advantage. So a good amount of families took advantage, but not like nearly as many as could have, right? And so then we worked all that year, and this is something I'm so proud of, where we went, I hired organizers across the state, pastors, and we got the word out about this into the communities that needed it.
Right.
I mean, we got to a point where we were going around with laptops signing people up at their house. Like, parents say, I want an option for my kid. We would do the application for them because, you know, a lot of grandmas is raising kids and different stuff.
They don't know the technology on their computer.
We was like, don't worry about it. We coming right in their house. You know what I mean? We doing a whole application. We printing stuff out for them. And that way we can make sure that, because if you got 3 kids and all of a sudden you don't got to worry about tuition and you can put them in a high quality school or private school, like that's a game changer. Like that's game changer. And so
because
that really brought me joy, because we got, go ahead, I'm sorry,
with her living here with us, she went from, you know, being bullied and everything at that school to going to Success Unlimited. And there was a lot of paperwork involved. It was a lot of paperwork. It was a lot of filling stuff out on the computer, but I sat down and did it all. I had to go to the school in her zone to get a paper showing that she was zoned for this school, and they had to sign off on it. And even going to those schools and getting them to sign off on it, they were looking like they didn't want to sign it. It was like, look, it is what it is. We're not bringing the child to this school. I'm sorry. And I look at the progress that she made. She got into dance. She was already part of a dance team in the city. It was a city dance team that she was a part of. Next thing we know, she's in the Montgomery Children's Magazine for winning the competition. She did a talent show one time at Success Unlimited, and she danced. And next thing you know, she's in the magazine. And it was a total change in the child overall, because she was out of that hostile environment. Now, the kids that grew up in hostile neighborhoods, they can thrive in that hostile school or that hostile environment. Kids like looking at myself and looking at her, that wasn't our moniker. We didn't grow up with the fighting and the cussing and the, you know, picking at each other and bullying and things of that nature. So it really did, and we didn't have to. All we had to do was pay for the school dues. You know, T-shirts, uniform shirts, you know, stuff like that. And then when you get to the school and they say, we have a pantry if you want to buy shirts at a discounted rate, it was like, this is beautiful. And then it was around the corner from the house. That made it even better, because we were going to have to drive all the way to Brubaker. We were going to have to drive all the way to Bellingraph, you know, drive all the way back across town. And it was legitimately around. It was some days where I could walk her to school. Literally walk her to school, because it was right there.
Yeah, and we got, you know, thousands of parents to sign up to go through that whole long process to really take advantage of this opportunity. We had to fight with the Catholic schools because they was trying to limit how many students they would take on scholarship, and we had to push them to take more. And it was just a battle. But at the end of the day, we were able to help thousands of parents to change the trajectory of their kids' lives. And that is one of my best accomplishments, the effort, the work that we did. And then the second, it was really in that same year, we passed the charter school law in Alabama. It was a very intense battle the whole time, but what turned the tide wasn't me lobbying. What turned the tide was we had empowered a parent through like step-by-step advocacy, like write letters, write op-eds, you know, and by the time, after like 4 or 5 months of working with us, she was giving testimony in front of the state legislature education committee saying why she got 6 kids, all boys. And she was saying how she needed a choice because the system is not working for her kids. And it just, people was getting all emotional in the meeting. It was such a powerful moment to hear from her. The lieutenant governor called us to get her to come to the Senate side because she had spoken to House meeting first. So it was like we ended up getting a law passed. But I thought the thing that made it so special was that all those parents who have been working with us, who have been advocating, who have believed in us, they saw that they had the ability to create change for their children. So it wasn't just that we won, it was that we won the mindset where now those families know if something is wrong, we have the power to change it. And that, to me, that's like the thing that gives me that power, that energy, to see other people find that power, energy in them to say, I don't have to accept subpar education or healthcare or whatever that issue is. You don't have to just accept. You have a stake in changing your own reality, and a change is possible.
What do you get most out of when you go and you speak in front of a crowd? I know when I go to different comic book conventions, or whether I'm on somebody else's podcast, but mainly when I go to comic book conventions, I do a panel on call or a panel/workshop called What It Takes to Be a YouTuber. I have a whole PowerPoint presentation, and it's giving those people that are there the tools of what they need to start their YouTube channel. And it goes from the basic, what type of microphone to get, how to create a good background for your studio. And I absolutely love getting in front of it. I don't care if it's 10 people in the room or my biggest crowd, over 90 people in the room. One time I was in New Orleans earlier this year. And of course, everything with COVID-19 has just shut down all my comic book conventions. So I haven't been able to get in front of on the stage and get in front of people and talk. So, and it gives me this excitement to know that I was able to take the time and reach somebody. And we're talking about kids all the way to elderly people who will stop me. And I don't mind talking to them as long as they want to talk and ask me questions about whatever else they have to ask me, because you have some people who might be shy to ask questions during the panel or during the presentation, and I'll sit down and take the time to talk with them, and it just feels so rewarding. So what is it that you get when you get in front of an audience, whether it's physically in front of an audience or it's virtually through an audience, when you speak?
I enjoy it. I always get nervous before I speak. Like my heart starts racing right before I start, you know what I mean? And that never stops, you know what I mean?
I'll tell you, I'm always late for my panel. And it is not on purpose. The panel will start at 3:45, and 3:36 or so, I'm still halfway across the building just sitting there. Everybody's like, man, come on, I was like, oh, it's that time. I always get nervous until I pick up that mic and walk in the room. I don't know what it is, but I thought it was just me. So I'm glad to know that's not just me out there. I get a little shaky, palms sweating, knowing I'm about to go in there and do the doggone thing, but still it's that, okay, I'm about to go in here and do this. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's a big crowd. But yeah, I'm glad. I just want to say I'm glad I know I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, not at all. I feel that heavily, you know. But you know what I get from it is I like people to feel empowered. And I think for you, because you're teaching something similar to me, it's like people need the tools so that they can build the confidence to do it. Right? I think that people have this self-doubt. And like once you give them the tools, it's like a path you can draw for them. And then when they see the path in front of them, they're confident enough to take the first couple of steps. And I just really enjoy, especially when I talk about resilience. When I talk about like education policy, like I'm really trying to push people to get angry enough about the system to want to change it and be willing to take action. Like I really always try to dramatize it and let them know just how messed up the system is, so that they can really feel it in a way that moves them to action. But when I talk about resilience, I'm really trying to get them to have a paradigm shift in how they view the world, how they view existence, how they view time, how they view themselves and being. And it's like there's a moment where people where for different people I'll say something and you'll see a hand shoot up, right? Because it touched something, it touched a nerve, it touched something, and they need more, right? And then you give them, they ask a question or they make a statement, you give them more, and it's like a lot of times with this kind of professional self-development work, is you're giving language to feelings that they felt, kind of fading feelings, like they're feeling for a little bit, then it's a past, and you're giving words to it and language to it, and it validates this feeling and it helps that feeling to grow. So being present won't just be a blip here and there. They can have it for 20 minutes or for an hour or for a day. They can like learn that power, or like letting go of their ego. They can do it for a minute, but they can't sustain it. And like once you give it language and you speak of experiences that they can feel and relate to, they can see that in themselves and they can sustain that feeling of like not letting their ego control them, not feeling insecure and comparing their life to everybody else's life situation and stuff like that. So for me, it's like when I train and I speak, my goal is to keep going and digging deeper until somebody has that connection. They have that breakthrough moment, that aha moment where they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, oh, okay, I get it. That's why I feel like this, or that's, you know what I mean? And so that's really, and then when it happens, it's magical. Like there's a connection. It's a moment that they'll carry with them for some time.
That's amazing, and it's something that I love. Like you said, that moment that they carry with them. I've come back. Most of the conventions that I do them yearly. So every year I go to Pensacola, Florida. I missed it this year, but every year I go to Pensacola, Florida for a convention. I'll go to New Orleans to Wizard World. I'll go right here in Montgomery to one in Birmingham and in Huntsville. So when I come back that next year, I'll see that kid. Now they're a little bit older, and now they're coming to me and telling me, I got like 10 videos on my channel, and I got some views, and they're excited. You know what I'm saying? Or it could be that elderly person that pulled me to the side. They're like, hey, I've been doing pretty good. Those are the people that email me, in between that period of time. So it always feels good and always rewarding to see the fruit of the labor that you're putting out. But let's get to this book. Let's get to this book. What made you want to put this in book form? Was it the need that you saw?
No, you know what happened? When I got out of the military, I was like a master resilience trainer. So I was really good at training on resilience. But that didn't make me want to write a book. You know what I mean? It was just like a skill I had. What made me want to write a book, I was reading Eckhart Tolle's Stillness Speaks. And then I read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And I was reading, and I just kept thinking to myself, why don't more people read this? Like, why don't more people know this information? You know what I mean? And then so I had that thought, and it was really just like engraved. It was like a moment. I'm like, if more people read this or knew this, they would be happier. Like they just would be, right? And so then I was reading P.D. Ouspensky's In Search of the Miraculous, which was incredibly long. But I read that. It was a great book. And the whole time I just kept having this thought, why don't more people know this? Why don't more people know this? Why don't more? And it's because a lot of it, and then my mentor told me, he said this, seekers find. So only people who are looking for this type of material or this type of self-growth will find it. And I said, I hear you, but it's also so esoteric that like if an average person read, the Celestine Prophecy or, the 48 Laws of Power or Nikolai Machiavelli or Rene Descartes, like they're not going to take from it what I'm taking from it. But they need to, right? And so I just kept having this thought, maybe somebody should put this information into something that an everyday person could relate to. The language of a person who go to work every day, parent their children, doing the best they can to try to move up the corporate ladder or start a business, or like something that they could pick up, read, and then it could start them on their self-development journey with really, really universal truths and concepts and, tactics. And then if they wanted to go deeper, there's whole catalogs and encyclopedias and volumes of text to go deeper. But this at least could get them started. So that's what really pushed me, because I want, like, as I was reading it, like, for example, there was one point when I was reading In Search of the Miraculous, it was the man and the possible psychological evolution, right? And I'm reading it, and they go into how like everything happens in like octaves. So like, on a piano, right? If you start at the lowest octave, as you go up, everything is just repeating, just at a higher scale, right? And so that's kind of like the universe does that, right? And so it kind of broke down how in our body is like 5 billion cells, right? And each cell has got like 8 trillion, atoms in each cell, right? And so then you look upwards, and it's 5 billion people on the planet. And then you look at the planet, and it's 600,000 million planets in the universe. I mean, in the galaxy, and it's 600 trillion galaxies, just the ones that we know of. And so it's just like everything is just kind of growing on the same type of scale. So it's like really all we are is like the cells on the planet. So in the grand scheme of existence, all we are is the Earth's cells, right? And so we think of it like that. It's like, well, does it really matter what somebody posted about me on Facebook? And it's 100 million galaxies for every grain of sand on our planet. Like, does it really matter that like my ex texted me something because she was angry? Like, does that really matter in the grand scheme of existence? And it was just like, I just felt if people understood that, they would be less concerned with such trivial things, and they would be more focused on having peace and joy, because that's what like life is really about, like peace, love, and joy. So, why get sucked into all of the BS, basically? You know what I'm saying? When in the whole scheme of existence in the universe, we just like a blip. You know what I mean? So, that's why I just felt like people. That's just one example of like, I felt like if people knew that, then they could be happier and be more joyful. So I want people to have that. And that was the genesis for me really wanting to sit down and write this book.
That's beautiful right there. That's beautiful. Now, what I want to do for a slight second is break away from what we've been talking about, because I know you more than the educational stuff and the leadership and the speaking that you do. I know you just like me. We watch a lot of different comic books and movies and TV shows and anime and all that good stuff. What are you watching right now currently? Because we're in quarantine, so we've been catching up on a lot of stuff. I know I have.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I've been caught up. So I love Marvel's MCU. I'm excited to see their Phase 4 movies, The Eternals and Black Panther 2, and I'm waiting for Loki's series. Loki is like my favorite MCU character, so I'm waiting for his series that they're gonna release. But my favorite of all, like if you said, Duncan, what's your favorite kind of fandom? It's by far Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. Like that is like by far my favorite. I'm a Vegeta fan all day, every day. I feel like they always be doing Vegeta dirty. Like he's the Prince of all.
Vegeta always happens because of the plot. That's what everybody always says. Vegeta always gets messed up because of plot.
Yeah, but, I mean, Vegeta is just they do him so dirty. But like I love Dragon Ball. Like I will watch it and talk about it for hours. So like right now, I'm into the manga. So your fans probably know, but like there's like a Japanese comic book basically that they release every month. And with because these two YouTubers I really like, they'll get it and do a whole 30-minute video going line by line on the comic book, okay?
Right.
And I'll be all into it like it's an episode. I'm watching like it's a TV show. Like I'm into it. And right now I'm really excited because I don't want to say for the first time, but this is one of the most important times, or one of the first times where Goku is actually getting beat down. And the lead up has been to Vegeta getting a new technique and a new training. He was on Yardrat, where Goku went after he defeated Frieza and learned instant transmission. Vegeta learned instant transmission in like an hour. But he was on Yardrat training to learn spirit control. So now that he's mastered spirit control and some other technique that we don't know yet, we're waiting for the big unveil to fight Moro on Earth. But to get back to Earth, Vegeta had to learn instant transmission, did it, came back to Earth, and then now the last comic book stopped with Vegeta rushing towards Moro, who is like he's like he eats worlds and he can consume energy, and he's like the biggest like threat right now. And so I'm so excited. I got it on my calendar, June 17th. The next issue comes out. I gotta see what did Vegeta learn on Yard Track that he's gonna take into this battle against Moro. Like, I am so excited. You know what I mean? I haven't been this excited since the Tournament of Power when Goku was getting beat up, and then Vegeta stormed Jiren, and Jiren did his like punch combination where he's like throwing 50 punches at once, and Vegeta dodged them all. You know what I'm saying? Hit him, then got the kick off, and then all of a sudden Jiren looked with the big confused eyes like, where did Vegeta get this power from? I was like, right. So I haven't been excited since then. So I'm excited to see the next issue of that. I just think it's such, and I actually talk about Dragon Ball Z in my book. Now that you mentioned it, I talk about Vegeta in the book. On one of the because the book is about resilience, and what I use the example that like this cartoon anime show where when the Saiyans get beat to within an inch of their life, like when they actually are down at their weakest point, their most vulnerable point, they're broken. When they're broken, that is actually, once they're healed, they actually come back stronger, to the point where sometimes they will actually look to fight people stronger just so they could get to that point and come back stronger. And that's just like the definition of how you want to look at resilience.
That's an awesome way to look at it. I think I model a lot of what I do from the stuff that I watch. My biggest thing is Power Rangers. A lot of people, what is the biggest thing in Power Rangers? Well, if you don't have cable growing up, Power Rangers comes on regular TV. So I've always been big into that, and being able to do what I do now, going to these different conventions and connecting with the actors from the show, and interviewing them and talking to some of them on a regular basis, and getting invited to conventions from some of them. It's an awesome experience. Never would have thought that I would have been able to do something like that. Of course, you watch stuff on TV. And if you'd have told me at 6, I would have met Jason David Frank, who played Tommy, and then sit down and have a 40-minute conversation with him, I would have just laughed at you and shot you with a Nerf gun or something and kept on going. But that's like my reality. 6 or 7 times out of the year, I'm in their face. We're talking. Then they get to the point where they remember you, and it's like, oh, okay, like this is real. This is real life. This is real life. Now, another thing. Go ahead.
Before you leave that point, I just want to be clear that the Green Ranger was my favorite Power Ranger by far. Like,
oh yeah.
I'll send you a picture when this is over. I actually went to an anime convention in Atlanta, and I dressed up as a Green Ranger. I paid like $400. I paid like $400 for the movie replica helmet. I got the big gold shield, the gold plate shield.
You had it all.
The green bodysuit. I was full ready. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know what I mean? And like, this is a time right now, and I tell people, I'm like, this is a time, not COVID, but like just this time, and like, this is in a world where you can do anything. The rules aren't the same like they used to be. Like, used to be like in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, you just go, get a high school diploma, go work in a factory, or go to the military, or maybe you a business tycoon if you're born into money, and that's really your options. Maybe be a teacher, right? So now, like, your life can be incredible. I was watching on Snapchat, there's like a world tag league where these athletes play tag. It's like they got like a little mini arena and they play tag, and it's serious. They like dive in and stuff, but it's like a whole business built off of that. So it's like, this is the time where you can live out all your dreams and make a living following your passion. And if your passion is tag or Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon, whatever, like, you can like have that life. Like, there's never been a time where you can say to a kid, whatever it is that you're passionate about, from video games to drawing pictures to whatever, you can make a living doing that thing. And there's thousands of other people who want to do it with you. Like, that is a special thing, but you got to see it through that lens of opportunity.
You definitely have to, man. And that is where we live in. And you got people who are quitting their jobs and they have T-shirt businesses, or, you know what I'm saying, just doing some of the things that for years, like you said, the rules have changed. So for years, you had to go to a company to get some T-shirts made. Man, people are making T-shirts in the back of their house. on these machines and making decals and making all type of different things, you know, and people are creating their own wealth, you know, in business. I look at a lot of these females who are ordering these lashes and they're getting their own designs and boxes, and now they have people now they don't go to the hair store no more. Their friends and their other relatives go to the hair store no more. They go to that one young lady. She has the best lashes, you know what I'm saying? And now she's creating wealth in her own home, you know, not doing anything illegal or anything out of the line, or it could be whatever, man. Like, you're right. You're absolutely right. The rules have changed. It's not the same anymore. You don't have to do a certain thing. You don't have to necessarily go to these companies to get things done anymore. You can do it on your own. And that leads me to my next point. When it comes to adults and when it comes to the times that we're in, what do you think is most significant when it comes to talking to parents? Because I know one of the biggest things that you say is parents have power, you know, and parent engagement. It's very important. It's something that I saw when I was growing up. My mom would pull up at the school, pull up. Whenever, God bless her soul, she would pull up. I could be in class just goofing off, and I'd be trying to figure out why all my other friends had got quiet. And somebody would just point at the window, and my mom was standing in the classroom window. I'm like, goddamn, y'all could have told me something earlier. I was just cracking my best jokes from Dave Chappelle last night. Y'all just left me hanging. But and when the young lady I had that lived with me, I was that same way. If she had something at school, I was there. And I think what has happened with COVID is a lot of parents have either been shown that they know what they're doing. A lot of parents have been shown that they don't know what they're doing. And there are a lot of parents who thought they were doing the doggone thing. They got humbled real quickly when now your child has to come home. And you have to basically facilitate your child in learning. So what do you think about that?
So I'll say two different things. I'll talk about parents in COVID, and then I'll talk about, you know, parents in general having power. So parenting in COVID, I've been hearing this a lot. Like, now parents are learning what it's like to be a teacher, right? And now parents have to deal with their kids, right? It's just kind of like this. It's based from this mindset that, like, parents take teachers for granted, or that, like, parents aren't as involved as they should be, and now they have to be involved, and now they're learning how, you know, difficult their kids are. And, like, I don't buy into that. Like, parents did not go to college for 6 years to become an educator, right? So, it's like me, I'm an education activist, right? I went to college for public relations. I got my master's in public administration, but I'm not a teacher, right? So I'm doing the best I can to educate my children, but I'm not an education professional. I didn't learn the pedagogy of how to teach a fourth grader math and how to teach a sixth grader science. You know what I'm saying? Like, so obviously I'm doing the best I can. I'm using YouTube. I'm supplementing it with Khan Academy, which is free. And so, you know, me and my wife are making do. But, like, you know, we're fortunate because I work from home. But, like, for folks who, like, have, like, who are essential workers, or who just is struggling to make ends meet, or, you know, whatever, it could be really challenging, and they're not trained to do it. So, and teachers are getting full pay right now. So while the parents are doing 80% of the educating, teachers are getting 100% of their money relegated for that child to be educated. So, I mean, I don't think that's I always like to push back a little on that. Like, yes, parents are learning and parents are being humble. Everything you said is right. And parents are not 6-year master degree education professionals who have trained to do this for the last 6 or 8 years or whatever. You know what I mean? So holding the parents to that standard, I think, is a bit unfair. And I know you're not doing it. I just want to put that out there because a lot of people right now are having that conversation. But to the other point about parents having power, a lot of parents don't know that they have power, and they kind of defer to the teacher, to the school, for all types of stuff. And that is a problem. And that's what I work the most on, trying to get parents to understand that you have power. Like, so for example, if a child is suspended, right? Most states have a law where if you suspend a child, a parent can come in the next day and meet within 24 hours and meet with the principal in lieu of a suspension, right? So you can meet with the principal and come up with an alternative form of discipline or punishment in lieu of having a suspension. But most parents don't know that. But you have to know that, read the code of conduct, read the parent handbook, whatever, and then you'll be empowered so that when your kid gets in trouble, you'll know the rules, right? Then there's also, like, just say a class, your kid is doing great in all these classes, but in the one class, it's just going terrible. Like they don't get along with the teacher. You feel like the teacher singles them out, whatever. Well, as a parent, you can move that kid to a different class. You could just go to the school and say, hey, this isn't working. I want my child moved to a different class. And the school's going to try to tell you why they don't want to do that or why that wouldn't be best for the child. But as a parent, you have the right to do that. Right? And so it's like so many rights that parents have, but you got to be an advocate for your child. You can't just assume that the school is going to do the best for your child, because that's what we do, especially as Black parents. We kind of assume that like the school is just they're education professionals. They're going to do what's best, and my kid needs to fit into the narrow box that they put them in, fit into the schedule that they designed for them. And me as a parent being involved means mama comes to school and whoops ass when my kid is being bad. Or the mama makes sure that the homework is done when I come to school that day, right? That's what we think it means to be involved. But it's way more than that. It's not about the parent being a pseudo teacher. It's about the parent being an advocate for the child. So if the child is having a need, that the parent makes sure that the school finds a way to meet that need. That could be extra reading help. It could be they're good at music, so they need more opportunities to perform. It could be, it doesn't have to always be negative, but you got to know your child, know what your child needs, and then go to the school and advocate. Like you, and every parent's not gonna know all this policy stuff, like, you know what I mean? Because like I live in this world, but when stuff is wrong. Like sorry about that. You know when things are not going right for your child, you know when it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And all as a parent you got to do is be willing to go in and say, this is not working. I want a different resolution, right? Telling my kid to just go back to class while you continue to punish them or discipline them or try to counsel them out of the school or give them an IEP and designate them as special needs when they're not. Like those things aren't helping the child. And so you as a parent have to know that and be willing to say it and not be like afraid. They got a MSED or they've got a PhD, so they must know, or they've been doing this for 30 years. Like, you know your child, just like when you're hungry, right? You know your child. And so when you're hungry, you got to go eat something. And when your child is doing right or doing wrong or needs something, you got to go get that for your child. They can't tell you that. There's no food expert that can tell you you're not really hungry. No, I'm hungry, right? And the same got to be true about your child. You've got to know there's a need, or this is working, it isn't working, and I need to get that fixed. And the system is designed to fix it, because the state is giving like between $12,000 and $20,000 for your child to be educated. Every child that, depending on the state, is given somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000 a year for that child to be educated. So you as a parent got to get the most out of that system, because people who have means, people who are involved, they making sure that their kid gets the best everything out of that system.
It harkens back to my childhood. Like my mom always told me, if your ass act up, I'm coming to get you. But if that teacher do something to you, I'm on your side. Point blank. Mm-hmm. And my mom was that involved parent. My whole family was that involved family. If there was Fall Festival and Jelly Bean Field Day, I saw my mom over there probably running the ticket booth or something. My dad always ran the putt-putt booth. My sister, who was in high school, she was over there running some type of something, because we both went to the same elementary school, even though we were 13 years apart. It was the neighborhood elementary school. Mm-hmm. It was an involvement from beginning to end. And there are a lot of, like you said, there are a lot of things that parents don't know because they don't go to read those rules. And you made a valid point when you said that it's not parents' fault. They didn't go. The person that's a professional dry cleaner did not go to school for 6 years to learn how to teach their kids how to do their schoolwork. So again, that it is something that's not their fault. But that doesn't mean you can't be involved in some form or fashion.
Let me cut you off there. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude and cut you off, but I want to say,
no, you're good.
It's not their fault, but they are responsible. So I want to make that real clear. As a parent,
that's the key. That's the key word. You
are solely responsible for making sure that your child gets the best possible education.
Because if they come home to do homework and you're not checking in on that homework, you're not seeing what that entails or what they're doing, then you're not, like you just said, you're not using that system that's providing those fundings for your child to learn and to do better.
Well, let me take it one step further than that. Forget about the homework. People get so caught up on homework and grades. All right, let me tell you the grade that matters. Can your child read on grade level? Their NAEP, National Assessment for Education Progress State Test. Okay, that is the test that matters. Right? That's because we have so many cases. I hear so many cases around the country, not just in one place, where children will go through school, K through 12, get A's and B's the whole time, maybe graduate valedictorian in their high school, whatever, get to college, and they can't read. And they got to take a year of remedial courses because the schools didn't prepare them to be college or career ready, right? So the grades are just arbitrary things. It's just not actually testing the grade level of the students. Are they reading on grade level? Do they math on grade level? Right? That's not being tested until the state has, here comes the state test. Da, da, da. So like if you're a parent, you can't wait. Like, so let me give you an example. If you want your kid to take AP courses in junior and senior year of high school so that they have like college level material, maybe even college credit, depending on the school district, right? You want that for your child. Well, that means in 7th and 8th grade, that kid has to be taking earth science and they've got to be taking algebra. They can't wait, because if you take algebra in 9th grade, which most school districts do, urban school districts do, or they split it between 9th and 10th grade, then your kid can't take the AP courses because they still got to take geometry, trigonometry, whatever. But parents who are really involved, they know that their kid has to be in a school that has algebra for 8th graders. Like they have to be in a school that has algebra for 8th graders if they have a plan for their child to take AP honors courses when they're in high school. But if you a parent and you don't know it, you just sending your kid to school and they coming home with good grades and you high-fiving your wife and like, yeah, we did it. Our kid's on the 8B honor roll and it's on Facebook and it look all good. But then you never check their National Assessment for Education Progress scores to see what is their actual reading level. Your kid can get to junior year and realize they're reading on a 3rd or 4th grade level. And that happens very regularly, right? And so that's the challenge. And again, a lot of parents wouldn't even know to think that. And that's why I work so hard to try to like get information to parents. And I tell parents, the first step is picking a school. So it's a website called greatschools.org, greatschools.org, right? And I tell parents, go there, put whatever school you either sending your kid to or you're thinking of sending your kid to, go to greatschools.org. It'll give you the grade. It'll tell you how much diversity, how many kids can read on grade level, how many, you know what I mean? All of this stuff. And because my brother had the same situation in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was like, we got to accept this school. This school is such a good school. I said, it's a good school. Let me look it up. I looked it up. Only like 28% of the kids can read on grade level. And I'm like, what makes you think this is a good school to send my nephew to? You see what I'm saying? And it's like parents need to, like, you got to do that research beforehand. Right, your kid shouldn't come home like, I did this and it was easy, and I did my homework and it was a little worksheet and it was cool. No, they should be challenged to think critically, come up with stuff. My daughter, she come home, her prior project she had like 2-3 weeks ago, she had to do a PowerPoint. She's 11 years old, putting together a PowerPoint with transitions and slides and all of that stuff. That's what the kids need to, you know what I mean? Like they need to be pushing and stretching and growing and learning how to think, not just doing route memorization where you memorize something and you just regurgitate it on different dittos and worksheets. And so that's the difference, right? And you don't find that out till it's too late, though, as a parent. You don't find out till your kid takes the SAT or till they can't get into the honors classes or even worse, when they get to college and they have to spend 1 year of their financial aid on classes they're not getting any college credit for because they have to take these remedial courses to be ready for college. And so, parents have power, but they also have this incredible responsibility. And they don't have to know it all. Like I start telling parents, you don't got to know everything, but you got to ask. you don't got to know everything, but you got to ask, how do I pick the best school? How do I pick the best classroom? People use Facebook to talk about drama. Use Facebook to get information. People happy to share good information when you ask for it. And so that's what I would tell parents. You are responsible. Because there are good schools and there are parents, and every parent's not an expert. But if they get their kid into that one school where 80% of the kids are reading on grade level, and your kid is in a school where 20% of the kids read on grade level, which one of them two kids you think is going to the better college, is going to have the better life, right? And so that's the challenge for parents, I would say.
I admire my mom because I was prepared beyond any type of preparation you could get. When my mom she was going to school in Mobile. She was going to Bishop State Community College in Mobile. I was 6. When I was 6, and it would be during the summertime, I was at school with my mom. I was doing Microsoft Word and PowerPoint between the ages of 6 and 9. So, like your daughter, by the age of 11, I had a friend of my mom's who went to our church who was going to the college for culinary, paying me to do her PowerPoint for her class. So, to this day, I have all of those skills. Like I said, I really didn't do a lot growing up. I really didn't go a lot of places. I went some places. I really didn't do a lot. I would still have to go to summer school, and I passed the grade. That's just how my mom was. You're going to find something to do, you're going to go to summer school. Well, I passed. I saw summer schools for people who didn't pass. Nope, you're going. That's the reality that I grew up in. We spent weekends at the library, not at the beach. I didn't really go to the beach until I was almost 20 years old. It sounds crazy. Wow. And I'm from Mobile. Pensacola Beach is right there. Dolphin Island Beach is right there. But I like a beach trip and stuff. I couldn't swim. I think that was one of the main reasons. But I spent my Saturdays at the library. We been at the library. I was in the reading program during the summertime. So, like you said, there's a method of responsibility that is still within the parent. One of the last things I want to ask you before we wrap up, and it's something that we ask every episode of the One-on-One series, is what is your take on the word consistency?
That's an interesting question. I think consistency is, to me, when I think of consistency, to me that means somebody I can depend on what's on their word. So if they say they're going to do something, they do it. They say they're going to be somewhere, they're there. But as I've gotten more into metaphysical principles and stuff like that, consistency changes because who you are changes. You know what I mean? So it's the you of 2 years ago, the you that's in love with, your ex versus the you that's in love with the person you with now. The you that's angry versus the you that's happy and living and walking in purpose. Those are different people. So what consistency looks like for those different versions of you is going to look different. To me, like I said, my biggest thing, if you just ask me service level, I say people, I can count on somebody to do what they're going to say. But to say what they do, exactly what they say they're going to do. Right? If they say they're going to be here, they're going to be there. If they say they're going to do this, they're going to do it. To me, that's the consistency. I can build a foundation of a friendship, relationship, anything. I can build that off of. I can trust that if you're not going to do something, you say, I'm not going to do it. You speak your truth. To me, that's the consistency. But also, I'm with the buffer in there built in to understand that people grow and their priorities change and their world and existence changes, and it's not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of where they are in their growth and self-development. So that it looks different for different people at different times in their lives.
Man, that's powerful. That's powerful. Duncan, I want to tell you, man, this has been a very powerful conversation, and we definitely want to bring you back to this platform for anything that we might necessarily do in the future that's tailored towards what you do, and especially when we start doing stuff when it comes to anime and Dragon Ball and all this stuff. We want to bring you back for that too, man. We want to bring you back for that too. But I want you to take the time to tell everybody again who you are, where they can find you.
All right, so yeah, my name is Duncan Kirkwood. I've had a pleasure being on. I really appreciate you, man. They can find me if they're interested in getting my book. They can get it on my website at duncankirkwood.com. Again, that's duncankirkwood.com. They can find it right on there, and they can follow me and my journey on social media, or if they want to connect, all the social media platforms is just at Duncan Kirkwood. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're just all the same, all at Duncan Kirkwood.
And guys, you know who we are. This is Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMSANONYMOUS. ANONYMOUS. See, that's where that reading come in. I forgot how to spell. We want to thank you guys for watching and thank you guys for listening. You can find us all over social media, whether it be here on YouTube where you're watching this, on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're also on TikTok. We're not doing no dancing like everybody else doing. We're doing funny stuff. So, but thank you guys for watching. This has been another episode of the 101 series presented by Fandoms Anonymous, and we'll see you guys later.